Today, we're going to talk about my guitars and the stories behind them. Hey everybody, Gretsch back with another video. I'm coming at you with kind of a different video than my usual tech and gaming stuff. For those of you who don't know, I play guitar and I own quite a few guitars and stuff. And I thought it'd be just kind of fun to share some of the stories behind each of the guitars I own, how I acquired them, and what I love about them. I don't know if I'll do any particular sound test or sound playing. That might be a separate video, just demoing how they sound and everything. So if you guys want to hear that, let me know in the comments section down below. But we're just gonna kind of have more of like a show and tell type of thing as far as like the guitars and everything that I have. So I'll include some B-roll with my with all the guitars and everything, so you guys can get like a really good look and see what they look like and stuff up close. I guess kind of first on the block, as it were, is my Grandmom's 1952 Gibson Acoustic. This has been in our family for obviously quite a few generations. This was actually my first guitar that I learned how to play guitar on. At the time, my sister's boyfriend had actually taught me how to play guitar on this one in particular. I'll never forget the first time I tried playing guitar, and just for those who are guitarists will understand just the calluses that you develop playing guitar. It originally had brass strings on it, which for a 52 I think is a little bit too heavy of a string to have on something that's just as old as this. This guitar is about 70 years old and it's worth quite a bit of money too, I might add. But it's such a beautiful guitar. It just sounds, I guess maybe I'll play at least this one, but it sounds just so rich and just has such a warm feel to it and everything. The thing is that what I didn't realize is that I play mainly electric guitar. At the time of learning guitar, I was kind of told, well, you start on acoustic and then you go to electric. And then I was later told, well, if you're going to play electric, just start an electric guitar. So I was given some slight wrong information a little bit about that. The other thing is I kind of developed some bad habits with this guitar because at the time there were brass strings on this guitar. I ended up developing a kind of I guess I'll call it a tight claw kind of grab to my playing, and I've now developed a bad subconscious habit where I almost like death grip the neck a little bit, and it makes my hands all tighten up and everything, and I've had to relearn over time how not to like death grip my guitar, so I have a more relaxed playing. I am not a fast, shredding metal type person. I do more, I guess you could say, rhythm guitar playing with chords and stuff like that. I think it's where I really, do better as a guitarist. I definitely would love to learn how to play faster at some point and do all this like type of stuff and all that, but that is not for the today or anything. But a couple things about this guitar, I guess, is that, and as I said, I'll include some B-roll. The tuner heads are actually not original to the guitar. Because it was from the 50s, the original tuner heads were there, since the guitar was made. And I went to put new strings on it, and I actually had one of the tuner heads snap off because it just became so brittle and so worn and everything. And I was absolutely heartbroken. I was just like, oh no, like I broke it. Oh, what am I gonna do? Kind of a thing. So I went and had it repaired, and the tuner heads on it are pretty close to the original ones that are on here. I think the ones that are on here were more of a, I guess like a reddish type of color. Maybe more like a pink, somewhere in that sort of color spectrum and stuff. So, but I really think that the white tuner heads on it look really, really good on this guitar, and just kind of gives it, still maintains a lot of that old, 50s look to it and everything. I've done my best to keep this guitar in really, really good condition. I use fretboard conditioner, and I condition the bridge and everything. I now use Diodario XS strings on them because it's a lighter string. I do a 10 to 46 gauge. Actually, most of my guitars have 10 to 46 gauge strings on them. I like that because it's the lightest of gauge for me, for my fingers, and it's the easiest to kind of get around on and stuff. And I felt that because this guitar was so old, I didn't want to put a lot of tension on the wood. I really want to keep this guitar as, have it be a family heirloom that I can just pass down to my kids at some point in my life. I felt that having nickel coated strings would be much more suited for it, and it honestly just gives it a really bright, just a really, really bright feel to it and everything. So I prefer the brighter sound of the nickel over the somewhat darker sound of brass strings and stuff. So I guess some other things, I think I've had the pins replaced on it a couple times. I'm really not a fan of through-hole bridges on guitars, but unfortunately, obviously, because of just being an acoustic, it's not really something you can decide. I know that there are obviously guitars that are like hollow bodies that have, you know, modern hardware and all that kind of stuff, but I know that a lot of acoustic guitars have kind of like the through hole type of stuff. The only other thing that kind of bugs me about this guitar, and I wouldn't change it because I don't want to devalue the guitar a little bit, is that where the strap is kind of around the nut part headstock of it, and it really kind of makes it awkward to play because it's supporting the entire guitar rather than just having it traditionally where it usually is on most guitars, which is where the neck piece is for, or not the strap lock for it is normally around the neck section of the guitar just before it gets to the fretboard part and everything. So, but I've had this guitar for, God, I started playing guitar when I was about 16. I'll put the math on the screen because I'm not good at head math, I'll be honest with you, but I've had it a long time. I have the original case for it and everything. So yeah, this was my first guitar, and it was definitely not my last. So I'm gonna head and go grab my other guitar, and we'll talk about the next one that I own. All right, so this was my next guitar. I love this guitar, honestly. This was my first electric guitar. This is a Fender Squier Stratocaster Affinity series guitar, and so this guitar is kind of interesting a little bit, I guess. So I had wanted this type of look and style of guitar because my best friend, who I went to church with at the time, had a guitar very similar to this. The only difference was, of course, the neck was actually a maple. I think it was a maple neck, not this rosewood neck. And I saw that and I was just like, man, that blue and white pickguard, like it looks so freaking good. And I really, really wanted a guitar that looked like that. Like to me, like that was the dream goal guitar kind of a thing. And I ended up picking up this guitar at the local music store that I had been taking guitar lessons on. So this was my first electric and everything. And I love it. Also, what I forgot to mention in the video was that this Fender Squier Stratocaster was the first guitar I had started using to compose my own music. There's actually some of my music on SoundCloud that are my early recordings that feature the sound of this particular guitar. I've had it ever since. It's really, really fun to play. The humbucker on it just sounds it really has that, like that chug, that chunk 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 type of, you know, feel when you go to play it. It plays chords and riffs like a dream, honestly. I love the sound of it. My only thing I want to currently do with it is I would like to modify and or change out the single coils on here. This guitar is really noisy. Also, I have really bad EMI in my office space, so that doesn't help anything. I've been thinking about different ways to kind of silencing this guitar, especially for the single coils, by adding either like a dummy pickup to it or something in that nature, because the single coils just make a lot of noise. But otherwise, this guitar is it really isn't a whole lot to say about it, honestly. I love the look. I love the feel. Again, I've got the Diodario XS strings, so everything just slides super well on it. My only, I guess, gripe with it is that trying to get the strings through a Strat on the back is not my favorite to do. It really just, oh man, just back feeding through the strings is, it's a chore, honestly. But I mean, once you get it, you know, through and around and everything, and you know, get them around the tuner heads, it's not bad. I guess the little story is that this one also ended up having broken tuner heads, because the tuner heads were original to this guitar. This guitar is about 17 years old now, I think. It's been a while since I did the math on it, but it's about 17, 18 years old and stuff. And I was tuning it one day, and I noticed that the tuner peg on it just broke from the stress of the strings. And I was trying to like get it off, and I'm like, it's not, what's going on here? I finally eventually had to take I had to take a drill to it to like loosen the bolt that was keeping the tuner peg in to get the tuner head out. And I had to take it over to the local repair shop and get a whole new set installed on it. I really, I think it looked really good, honestly. I don't have the type of tuner heads where like it's the split and you put it around or anything. I don't have like locking tuners, but tuning stability is not too bad. I really don't touch things like intonation and all that jazz because I'm just not skilled enough to know how to adjust all of that. My whammy bar on this really does float really well, so I can really, dive bomb and pull up like half a step maybe or something like that, and it responds the way that that I feel like I want it to and stuff. So yeah, this is kind of like my main guitar that I pull out when I just want like a smaller, slim, look how slim, obviously Strats usually are anyway. So I like that slim feel, that light feel when I don't want to feel like I have something heavy and awkward to handle and stuff. This guitar, actually, there is a sort of a sound demo. I did a I've done a couple guitar covers with this one. I did a guitar cover of a song by Misa Mo. I've done a guitar cover by a couple of guitar covers by Twice on this guitar, and this guitar just is like my rock feel and sound to it and stuff. So if you want to go, I'll probably link a couple of those in the card section of the YouTube player, and you guys can go get an idea of what it sounds like. I think the best demo that I have of this guitar is when I did a cover of Twice, I Can't Stop Me by Boy Meets Girls. I really think that kind of shows like just how good this guitar sounds, and so yeah, I don't know. I guess that's kind of it for the most part. I guess the only other thing is that I like collecting buttons. So my goal, my goal with this strap is just to have buttons all the way up and around, cause like, why not? It's my way of like kind of decorating and personalizing it. Actually, my this one in particular, this particular pin came from like my former job, so I just found it one day and I stuck it in my strap, and it's been there ever since. So anyway, yeah, but this is my guitar, and I guess for the pins, I don't know, I'm just kind of scatterbrained a little bit here, but I've got a Minecraft pin, and I've got like a Doctor Who pin, and I have a couple Twice pins, and a Discord pin, and a little American flag, and I think there's a pin on here from, not sure who that's from, I don't remember, but there's a couple pins from some bands that I don't think are around much anymore or at all, actually. So I guess in some ways the pins have as much their own little stories as the guitar itself, although I don't remember how I got most of these. I think a couple are also several years old, and they've just been on the strap ever since. And no, before anybody asks in the comments, no, the strap does not feel heavy. It feels just fine. So, it's kind of like having the equivalent of like a studded guitar strap, I guess, for the most part. But yeah, this is my Fender Squier Stratocaster, and I love it. And yeah, I look forward to, I'm thinking about maybe adding, if I were to switch out the pickups, I'm thinking about maybe adding like a Hot Rails, like mini humbucker. I'm not sure which position I'd like to do that in, but I think I'd like to at least try to like silence it a bit more by adding a dummy coil similar to electronics. I'm not good at soldering electronics on guitars. That's not something I'm willing to mess with, so I'll have my local guitar tech do it for me. But yeah, that's my other guitar. So now we'll go ahead and talk about my third guitar and the story behind that. All right, so this is my third guitar, and before anybody says anything, this is the British Union Jack flag, okay? Just real quick, just to clarify. Okay, I say that because apparently before I owned this guitar, this was being sold at my local music store. And I think I'll call it the legend goes that somebody saw this guitar being sold and they thought it was somehow the Confederate flag, and it's not. It's honestly, it is the British, the British flag, which by the way, I have the British strap to go with it, which is really super cool. But anyway, yeah, just to clarify that. So yes, this is my third guitar. I actually got this after finishing high school, which is really cool. So I got a, and I finished high school in 2015. So God, again, I'm sorry, I'm bad with math. I've had it for I'll be honest with you, I was bad at math in high school. I don't know how I managed to get through it, but I did. Whatever. Anyway, but yes, I saw this guitar and I was like, I have to own this. It is just such a a really, really cool guitar. It sounds really, really nice. Even just as an acoustic, it sounds really nice. The feel of it is a little bulky at times, I'll be honest, playing it. I think I've done a review about this guitar on my channel before, decades ago. So I'll see if I can find it and link it in the description. Yeah, I wanted this guitar because, first of all, white is just one of my favorite colors in general. And also just, I was raised on like British comedies as a kid. And so I just have this kind of like attraction to just British humor, British mannerism, just that overall general culture is really, really nice. So I wanted to just have a really unique guitar. What else do I want to say about this? I guess the reason why this is on here in particular is because sometimes the way the way the strings are mounted on here is not my favorite. They also can sometimes ring out when I don't want them to. I don't know if that gets picked up by the pickup or not, but I find it annoying. So this is just to kind of like dampen that a little bit. Stringing this up is probably one of the most difficult things to do because of the way that the saddle is done. And when I went to go put on the new strings I've been running on all my guitars, I found that, I don't know if you can see this, but the wrapping for the, let's see, D, for the D string comes up a little bit short. So it's not exactly quite the long enough length for the whole guitar. I managed to get it strung up and it's fine, and it's been staying in tune for the most part. So, but yeah, the headstock is really, really pretty, honestly. I think that's beautiful. And this is an Epiphone Union Jack, forgot to mention that. I bought this guitar for about, I want to say like $600 to $800, I think. And it's now worth between like 2 and 3,000 apparently, because they only, so a little bit of history, I'm remembering this in pieces now. So a little bit of history. So this guitar, I think, was a potentially like a reissue type of thing. There was one of these models of guitars. I did some research. They were put out, I think, somewhere around like the 80s or the 90s. But I believe that the blue, I think, was a lighter color when they originally had made them. And there was about 250 units of this guitar sold at that time. And then Epiphone went and, I guess, made an updated version, I guess I'll call it, and there was only 1,000 units sold of this guitar. And that was around 2014, and I bought this in 2015 when I finished high school, so about a year after it had been, released and stuff. And I just, like I said, I like the look of it. I like, for the most part, I guess the feel isn't too bad. It's a semi hollow body guitar. Actually, in some ways, it almost looks like it's one whole block. I don't know. They did it so well painting, you can even tell where the seams are for it and stuff. But in the back of it, it's so pretty. I'll show some B-roll of all my guitars in that. I'm just kind of sitting here talking about it and stuff. So, but yeah, that's my third guitar that I've owned, or that I own right now. I enjoy it, and I guess it really isn't a whole lot else to say it. I love guitars. To quote Michelangelo Battio, you can never have too many guitars. So anyway, and I guess that brings me to my last guitar, which is my fourth guitar. All right, to the last guitar, and this guitar has a really interesting story, I think, honestly. So this is a Gretsch G5420T hollow body electric guitar. And this is actually one of, well, kind of one of a few dream guitars. My Strat was definitely one of them. This was the second one. So I'll talk a little bit about what makes this guitar special to me. So, and I have it here. Many years ago, I had cut out this particular clipping of a Gretsch. This is a Gretsch Setzer Hot Rod G6120 SH from 2003. And at the time, it was original production was from 1999 to, well, current. Now, unfortunately, you can't get this guitar, so this has actually been discontinued. In the middle of editing this video, I did a little bit of research, and I found that you can actually still get this guitar, but it's only being sold as used on sites like Reverb and similar. I saw this guitar as a kid, and I was like, I love this. I love the look of it. I was just attracted to blue colored stuff, honestly, and it's just such a cool looking guitar just in general. So I had cut this out, telling myself that one day I was going to own a Gretsch guitar. But at the time, I thought that like Gretsch guitars were like, $2, $3, $4,000 guitars. Like I thought they were just really expensive guitars, honestly. And, you know, I kind of let the thought sort of set aside and everything, and I didn't really think much of it and stuff. That was like years ago. So years later, I was cleaning out I guess my office space, and I came across that clipping, that calendar clipping again, and I was like, I wonder if they still make this guitar because I would really love to still own this. And I did a little Google searching, and unfortunately, like I said, no, they don't. Gretsch does not make this particular guitar anymore, but they made this guitar. And I was like, you know, it's not like that guitar, but it's pretty bang on close. And so I did a little bit of poking around. I was like, oh, well, my local guitar center has this guitar, and apparently someone had brought that particular guitar in to be, I guess, resold and refurbished or whatever. So originally, I was going to end up buying it as a refurbished guitar. So I had put a down payment. I was working at the time. I wanted to get something nice for myself and all that jazz. Wanted to finally get my dream guitar, buy a guitar by myself and everything. Put a down payment, was sitting there, and I was going to pay the rest of it off. And my mom says to me, she's like, I don't have a good feeling about this. She said, we should go see if the place we normally go to, you know, has it or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, da da da. So we went into the normal place that I go to buy guitars and stuff. And I was picking up, I think I was picking up strings or something at the time. And I asked them, hey, do you have this particular model guitar in your inventory? And the sales rep goes, let me check. So I wait, and he comes out, and what he comes out with is an unopened box with this guitar inside, completely brand new. I am the only owner of this guitar. No refurbed, no resold, nothing, strictly brand new. And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I canceled the payment at Guitar Center and bought it from my normal shop that I get it from. And I even found a white guitar strap to go with it, which is awesome. And this guitar also is a little bit more special because at the time, Twice was on their, I think it was their 5th world tour. I got to cheat a little bit. Yeah, it was on their 5th world tour, what all this is back here. And so, you know, for me, it was kind of like around like the Twice era for me a little bit. And I was going to be going to their concert in a couple months later and stuff. So this whole guitar was kind of bought around like Twice is Ready to Be era and everything. And so it really just kind of meant so much to buy this guitar around that time, kind of, you know, a little bit decorated. The guitar strap has these little things I got from the Twice concert and stuff on it and all that jazz. Yeah, I love this guitar. It sounds super nice. As I said, I'll do proper sound demos. It's a little bit out of tune at the moment, but I'll do proper sound demos at some point if you guys want to see that. This guitar was also featured in the cover I mentioned with my Fender. So if you guys want to hear both guitars, they both have been recorded in a cover you can listen to. So yeah, I haven't had to have a lot done with it. I think I might need the bridge adjusted a little bit, I think, and also my Epiphone needs a little bit of adjusting too, as well. My only gripe with this guitar is really just this whole like Bigsby whammy bar system. Trying to string this guitar is a real challenge because you have to put the strings on the pins and then wrap it around and then, you know, hold one end and then tune the other end and hope that this doesn't come undone while you're doing it. It's a bear to restring it, but once it's strung, it's fine and it's fun to play. I always say that I think that's everything, and then I think of something extra, but that's just how my brain works. Yay, ADHD. Anyway, but yeah, that's the story of all of my guitars and the stories behind them. I hope you guys found this really interesting. If you have any questions or comments or something regarding any one of my guitars, please drop them in the comment section down below. If you'd like to hear a sound demo of all of the guitars that I own, please let me know and I'll be happy to do my best to record that. My recording setup for guitar is a little bit messy right now, so if I do end up doing that, please give me some time to figure out the best way to execute a good recording for you all to enjoy. I guess I can try to find links to some of these guitars if you want to buy them yourself and everything, and I'll put links to the strings that I use as well. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!